This is Gemara Sanhedrin Daf Ayin Dalin, and we're holding on the bottom of Ayin Gimel Amid Beis. And once again, we'd like all the learning to be an incredible zchos rafua shlema for Tinoik ben Miriam Ahuva b'siyata de Shemaya. The unlimited and infinite Koyach HaTorah should continue bringing Tinoik ben Miriam Ahuva a complete rafua shlema. We're holding on the bottom of Ayin Gimel Amid Beis. We're about 10 lines from the bottom at the two dots, which we quote from the previous brisa, Chait Elu Chayve Krisis, in which the brisa said that when the pasuk says Chait is referring to someone who's running after someone who the Isser to be together would be Krisos, the person running after is allowed to be killed to prevent him from violating such a woman. Says the Gemara, will ask you as Tira. Vilu Nairish Heshem Katnas, that the following Nairais are entitled to a kanas from the man who violates them. Says the Braisa Abal Achaisa, his sister. So says the Gemara, Abal Achaisa is someone who has karis, and the halacha is that she gets the chamishim shekel. Says Gemara, 1 second. If the punishment is like we just suggested, he can be killed. So then we should have a classical halacha that any time one is getting killed, then what? You don't get the chiyam amain. So there should be no chiyam amain in such a case. Answers the Gemara, Amar Rabbanan, Kamei de Rav Chisda Mishas Ha'ara. Says Rabbanan, in front of Rav Chisda, from the time of Ha'ara to Pegama. That's when there's the Pegam. That is when the person is considered blemished, even before the full act of Biyah. Ha'ara to Pagma. Iftar le Mikatala, and therefore he's parted from being killed. Mimayna le Mishalem ad Gemar Biyah. So says the Gemara, we have to split up this action into two parts. Meaning, the act that makes this woman a paygame happens once there is a tchilas biyah, and therefore only prior to the tchilas biyah could you kill the guy. Once the tchilas biyah is had, now this woman is considered blemished, and therefore at the moment of the completion of the biyah, that's when there will be the chiyuv mammon. Says the Gemara, Nichlam Dama Arazu Nishika. So if you hold the Araz Nishika Sever, then it makes sense because at that moment she is a paygame, but there's no chiyuv kanas yet. Elolamanda Amar, 4 lines of the bottom. Arazu Achlas Satara. According to the Manda Amar, Machlekes the Gemara Nivam is that what is the Ara? Not just Nishika Sever, but there has to actually be penetration of the Aver. Ma'ikal Meimar, because then it all comes simultaneously at the moment that she's considered Pagam, paygim. That's the moment that you're chayiv the kanas. Says the Gemara, Rav Chisda Kigain, Shabal Leka Shloikedarka, and therefore that's where she's considered a paygim. And then V'Chazer Bal Kedarka, and therefore that's where the chiyuv mamain is going to come. Teretz number 1. Rav Amar teretz number 2. Bimani Chasai Shelo Yehargena. Talking about the case where the sister allows the brother to violate her. Why? So that he will not kill her. Rav Yehudi, and this is Shitas Rav Yehuda, who says that a woman cannot be saved at the cost of the one who's trying to have the relations with her life. And therefore, since he cannot be killed, that's where there's going to be a chiyuv mammon. So the Gemara is responding that indeed you are correct. That any time there's a real chiyuv mammon, one cannot be killed. But in these cases, there are sidebar reasons why there still would be the chiyuv misa. We turn over to Indalam and Aleph, Rabba Amar, a third teretz. We're talking about a case where she was seduced. According to everyone, not only Rav Yehuda, even those who argue in Rav Yehuda hold that the woman consents if this was an act of seduction, that she agrees, then we're not allowed to kill him. And that's why it's going to be a chiyuv mammon. Abaya Amar, a 4th teretz, of the cases where he could have saved her by killing him by one of his limbs. Yochanan Shali, the Tani is Yochanan Shal that says Yochanan Shal Aimer. Haraydiv Shayraydiv Achaver, if someone's pursuing a friend to kill him, the Argai. If you're able to save him by one of his limbs and he did not, then The halacha is that you're chayiv misa. You were not allowed to kill him at that moment, and therefore there'll be indeed a chayiv misa. It says the Gemara, let's dive a little bit deeper. What is the source? My taima de Rav Yonasan ben Shaul. Techsiv says Bavchinat Anash Yachtav V'Goymer. From Rav Elazar b'mitzvah Sheva Misa Kosim Medaber. Techsiv b'Masin Yiyah Nesat Nefesh Tachas Nefesh. V'afilu Achi, and even still, Omer one of the Yasin Anish Anish. We know calamity, they'll be punished. If the case that you could have saved the person, then you're not allowed to save his life. I know, therefore we have a case, that is the case. Ella, but says the Gemara, as we turn over to the first Y line, articulates the Gemara the Kasha. Now, that even if you're able to see someone by taking out one of his limbs, you're still allowed to kill him. What is this case going to be? And the Gemara says, no such raya. Why? How will it be that it's punished? Says Gemara, in the Mesis Tashlum and therefore there's no such raya. Answers the Gemara, Loishna. No, there's no difference between the two different Aveirais, and both of them, the fact that there is a chiyuv misa will block there any chiyuvei tashlumim, and therefore, because there will be in both of these cases a monetary compensation, therefore there will be no chiyuv misa. So says the Gemara, Da'amar Rava. We're on the third Y line as the Gemara now continues to explain that now that we know the classical kimle b'dirab minei, the classical that any time you have a chiyuv misa and a chiyuv tashlumim, of course, the chiyuv misa comes and there is no chiyuv tashlumim, even when there's two different aveiros to two different people. Says the Gemara, a source for this, the Amar Rav, someone who is pursuing to kill a friend, and in the way he broke some vessels. Whether those vessels belong to the person he's trying to kill, whether those vessels belong to any other person, the halacha is Potter, there's no chiyuv tashlum. Says the Gemara, my time, because he's chayiv misa, the fact he's trying to kill someone else. So we see a raya to our yesod in any way, anytime, there's a chiyuv misa, there's going to be no tashlumim, even if it is to someone else. Says the Gemara, one who's being pursued, if he breaks the kelim of the roidev, potter. Shakol adam chayiv. Explains the Gemara. Shel roidev potter, if it's of the one who's pursuing him, and he's trying to save his life, he needs to bring his kelim, he's potter. Why? You can even kill the guy. Reuven's trying to kill Shimon. So Shimon guys to go back and kill Reuven, in the way he breaks Reuven's kelim. Of course he's supposed to even let to kill Reuven. Why? Because you're not allowed to save yourself with the money of your friend. And continues the Gemara, the roidev achar roidev lahatziloi, to save him. Shibras hakelim bin shal roidev bin shal nirdav bin shal kol adam potter. V'loy min adin, and says the Gemara, this is not really the basic halacha. Why? The reason why we have to say that there's going to be a patur in such a case, says the Gemara, because it can't be that one would feel he's going to have to be chayiv and he won't go save his friend's life. So we create a patur in order that one is willing to go and save the other person. Continues the Gemara, we're at the two dots, about 15 lines down, in the wide lines, Ayin Dalet Amud Aleph, Aval Roidev Achar Behema. The Mishnah said that if someone is running after a behema, that what is the halacha? Or said the Mishnah, one is about to be Chal Shabbos, one is about to have Oivid Avodah Zarah, you're not allowed to kill them. We do not say kill them to prevent such an Aveira. Tanya, we learned in a Brayso Rashbi Oimer, Oivid Avodah Chavim Nitin Latil B'Nav Shai Mikal B'Choimer. Says Rashbi, someone who's about to worship an idol, yes, you're allowed to kill him. yes, you're allowed to save his Olam Haba by killing him, Mikal V'Chaimer. Explains the Gemara, Ma Pegam Hedyet. If someone is about to blemish a person, Itil Tzil Ben Afsha, you kill him to stop him. Pegam Kavaya Lo Kol Shekein. But says the Gemara, wait, V'Chayanshim Min Adin, as we learned yesterday, there's no such ability to be Einshim Min Adin. There's no such ability to say that a Kavachaimer should teach us halachais with regarding Einshim. Says the Gemara, Kasavar Einshim Min Adin. This Shita, Rashbi holds, indeed, we yes say Einshim Min Adin. Tani, we learned in a Rav Shimon Oimer. Now Elazar, the son of Rav Shimon, weighs in. He says the Gemara, he holding like his father, Damar Einshin Min Adin. Vasyam Shabbos b'chil mavid chavim. We learn out Shabbos from the word chilul because they're shava from avodah zara. Amar Rav Yochanan Shemini Yitzadok. Says Rav Yochanan. Now we get into the famous Gemaras of allowing one to get killed. Yaharig val yavar. Nivnu v'garm aliyah's base. Nitza be'los. They counted and they voted in the attic of Nitza's house in Luz. Kol avira shabbat Torah. Any avira. Im oimru l'adam avor. You have to be over the avira. Or val ta'aroig. Halacha is yavra val yaroig. Your life is worth more than the avira. Chutz, of course, the big three, but it's coming to the rayis. Ushvichos tamim. Says the Gemara, the big three, life is not worth living if you have to violate them. And therefore, says the Gemara, if one is put up to the task, he has to even give away his life and not be ovid of a desire of Bechal Shabbos or kill someone else. Says the Gemara, is it true one has to risk his life for Avodah Zarah? Minayin, says Rabbi Yishmael, that indeed she avoid val yaroig. How do we know that indeed you are supposed to worship the avodah and not Avodah Zarah, not give your life? Says the Gemara, Talmud Loimar, you know where we learn it from? V'chai bahem. Says the pasuk, v'chai bahem and v'lo sheyamus bahem. Says the Gemara, v'chai bahem, that you Torah is there to live by. And that the Torah should not be something that you're going to die by. And therefore, if someone's life is threatened, the halacha is, unless he's going to be Ovid Avodah Zarah, he should be Ovid Avodah Zarah, and not, in order, to save his life. Says this Brisa, counter to our classic ideology of the Gimel Averis Chamurais. Says the Gemara, Yochel, I would think I feel a bit for Hesya, even do such a for Hesya in public. Talmud Leimar, says the Torah, V'loisachalu Hashem Kodshi, says the Torah, do not be machal my name v'niskadashti, and I will be sanctified. So what do we see? We see very clearly, says the Gemara, that even Avodah Zarah, one should do and not give up his life. Says the Gemara, Inu da'amar kirav Elazar. Those Rabbanan and Beis Nitzah Zaliyah in their attic holds like Rav Elazar, who argues in Rabbi Yishmael. Titanya Rav Elazar Imer v'aftas Hashem alegecha. Says Rav Elazar, you shall love Hashem your God b'chol levavcha with all your heart, u'bechol nafshecha with all your soul, u'bechol me'oidecha with all your money. Im nem b'chol nafshecha. Once it says you shall love Hashem with all your soul. What to say with all your money? Explains the Brisa very famously. There's a person that his body is more chaviv to him than his money. And from here is where we see in this Brisa that according to Rav Elazar, this Brisa, that indeed your life is worth more than anything else, and you're not Oved Avodah Zarah, and this is where our Shita of the Gimel Averes Amurais comes from. Continues the Gemara with the next two details in our Brisa. Tanya, Rabbi Omer teaches Rabbi Kikasher Yakim Mishareu V'Ratzchai Nefesh. Says the Pasik, a man gets up against his friend and murders him. So is Kina Davar Azeh. So is this thing. Chima Lamanu Meretzeach. What do we learn from Neum Rasav Lachazav Retzeach? Nothing. Me'ata Rezabalam Evinim Zolamad. You don't learn anything from it, but rather you learn to it. Makid Jotzel and Neum Rasa that what? Maneir Rasa need to Latzil bin Asha, Vertzil need to Latzil bin Asha. And the person has to give up his life. Says the Gemara, Umakish Neir Rasa L'Reitzeach. The Baratei Yarik Val Yavar, the lacha is you give up your life before you kill someone else. Says the Brisa of Neir Marasa. So too, to Harig Val Yavar, one has to give up their life and not be over on Gilui Arayis. Says the Gemara, Retzeach Gufei Minalam, where do we know Retzeach? Svaru. Says the Gemara, it's a Svara. What? Asli Kamei the Rabba of Amar Le Mari Durai. If Mari Durai, the governor comes and says, "They'll katil plenty, go kill someone. I'll be lying. If not, katlinu I'll kill you." Amar leli katlucha, v'loy siktal. Allow yourself to be killed, and don't kill. Why? The famous line: "Miyemar de damach didach sumach tfei." Who says your blood is redder dama dahu gavra sumach tfei? Says the Gemara, it is no one's ability to be able to weigh a life for a life, and therefore one has to give up his life before killing someone else. Says the Gemara, Ki Asa Ravdimi, 4 lines from the bottom, Amar Rav Yechon Loishna L'Shloi B'Shas Gezeres Malchus. Says the Gemara, that which we said that only the Gimel Averis Chamurus you give up your life for is only when it's not the time of Shemad. Avashas Gezeres HaMalchus Afilu Mitzvah Kalo Yarig Val Yavor. Ki Asa Ravin Amar Rav Yechanan Afilu Shloi B'Shas Gezeres HaMalchus Lo Yamru Ala B'Tzino Avol B'For Hesya. Afilu Mitzvah Kalo Yarig Val Yavor, to be Machal Shem Hashem is the worst of all, and therefore at the time of Gezeres Malchus, or if one has to be over in Avera in public, you have to give up your life. Says the Marmai Mitzvah Kalam Amar Rav Bar Yitzchak, it's an example Amar Rav. As we turn over to Ayin Dalam Abeis, says the Gemara, you know how far it goes that if there's a Gzeira, or if it's in public, that one has to give up his life. Afilu on the top of Amin Beis Lishanuye Arkisa Desanya de Mesana, even to change the color of his shoelaces. If one is told he has to do it in public, it's the way shoelaces, the color of the Goyim, or Gzeira Shmad, you have to be killed and not do such. Says the Gemara of Akama B'fer Hesya, what are the parameters? What is considered B'fer Hesya? Rav Yaakov, Rav Yechon, Ein B'fer Hesya, B'chus B'asar, B'nei Adam, 10 people. Pshita, says the Gemara, Yisrael B'ninan. Of course you need Yidin. D'chsev, why? V'niskadashti, B'tach B'nei Yisrael. Because it says V'niskadashti. But by Rabbi Yirmiyah, Tisha Yisrael, V'nachri Yachamau, what if it's 9 Yidin and a guy? Is that considered B'fer Hesya? The one has to give up their life. Tashimat, Tani Rav Yanei Achod, Rav Chebar Rabba, As Yetoich Toich. Kseva, Chavnikdashi B'tach B'nei Yisrael. Kseva, Sam Havdilu Mitoich Ha'id Azois. Malal and Asara V'kul Yisrael, all have to be Yidin Avkan. Asara V'kul Yisrael. Asks the Gemara, and of course, the incredible Siyata Dishmaya. V'ho Esther B'fer Hesya Avai. We're sitting here at the Daf of Rosh Chodesh Adar. How beautiful! And what do we have in the Daf of Rosh Chodesh Adar? Esther! For Esther B'fer Hesya Avai. So why did she allow Achashverosh to be with her? Why didn't she give up her life? Amar Abaye. Esther Karkoilam Aisa. Indeed, Esther was not proactive in the act. She was passive, and that's the reason why she allowed Achashverosh to be with her, but she was not an accomplice in the crime. Rava Amar Hanas Atzmei Shaini, says Rava, if the Goyim are doing something for their own pleasure, it is different, then one should not be Machal Shem Hashem by bowing to the Goyim. Achashverosh was doing it for his own pleasure, and that's the reason why she didn't have to give up her life. We're not going to say this. Hani Kavaki Demuniki. If you're not going to say this, these people in their temples, how are we allowed to give money to them? It's a Chil Hashem. Says the Gemara, Ela anos atzvah shiny, they're doing it for their own benefit. Achanami anos atzvah shiny, and you don't have to give up your life in such a scenario. And conclude today's share, Vaz the Rava l'taimeh, this is Rava l'shitasei damarava akum da'amar le'lahanai Yisrael, katol aspasta b'shabata v'shadi l'chiyuta. If a guy says to a yid, cut some aspastos, cut some of these plants, and give it to the animals, v'loy, and if not, katzlin l'chai will kill you, lekta v'loy lektalei. Says the Gemara, the halacha is cut the spasta and don't be killed. It's Shabbos. We see you still allowed to do it. Shadil in Ahara, but if the guy says to throw it in the river, then then you have to allow yourself to be killed. And what's the chiluk between these two cases? My taima says the Gemara very simply, one is he just wants you to be over. One is he's actually getting benefit. So if the guy is getting benefit, then one does not have to give up his own life. But if the guy is doing it just to taunt, to pain you, then you just have to give up your own life. We'll pick it up from here. B'siyata dishmai.